Welcome back to the lecture. So in this particular lecture today we will discuss on some technique on how to check independence of vectors. So in the last lecture I discussed about independence of vectors from a geometrical perspective. So when we say the vectors get becoming independent. Now when we are dealing with large number of vectors, or we are dealing with vectors which are having higher dimensions, we will be unable to plot them on a like on a 2D space or 3D space, because they may be having higher dimension than 2 or 3. So there must be some algebraic method in order to understand the independence of vectors, and we also saw what is that algebraic method. That is basically this thing. So we need and so if we have n number of vectors, then we can say that the vectors are independent if this particular equation. So I am writing capital V for the vectors. So if this particular equation implies that alpha I equals to 0 for all I in your chosen range. So if it is from like 1 to n, for all I in 1 to n. So this is the condition to be checked algebraically. But here also there is a problem, that how can you verify that only this is the solution. So of course this is one solution always. So if you always put alpha as 0, you will get 0, but is it the only solution? uh, sorry. So what I am saying is this, that for independence I need the alpha to be only 0. So no other alpha should satisfy this equation. So that is what I should check, that whether alpha I equals to 0 is the only solution or not. Of course alpha I equals to 0 is one solution, but is it the only solution? So that is what we should check. So if we come to see that no, there are some alpha with which we can also get this equation valid. So then what does that mean? That means that some of the vectors are a linear combination of other vectors. Then the set of these n vectors vi, v1 to vn would not be an independent set of vectors. That is what we can conclude. Now how to check the independence of vectors? So for that there is a technique which is called column operations. So you must be knowing about the row operations of matrices. So to get a matrix in the row echelon form, so with the help of that we can solve a system of linear equations that you already have been taught in your maths, in your like basic maths course. What we will be talking here about is the column operation, which is almost similar but a bit different, and we should go into a numerical example in order to understand how we go about with a column operation. So let us take these vectors, the set of vectors as v1 equals to, let me change the color here. Let us take v1 equals to 1 0 1, v2 as 0 1 1, v3 as 2 1 3. So if I give you these three vectors, then there is a possibility that these three vectors can be independent of each other. They might also be dependent, but there is a possibility that they are independent. If I add a fourth vector, then of course the set of these four vectors will not be independent, right? This much I hope you understand. So this fourth vector, even if these first three are independent of each other, the fourth vector can be expressed in terms of this three, because it lies in the same three-dimensional space, and these three independent vectors will form a basis. That means with the help of this basis any other vector can be generated. But what we are trying to see here is basically the numerical exercise we want to do, and we want to see the example, see how we do with the numerical exercise, the technique involved in that. And also another thing we will reveal is exactly what are those alphas. So these alphas, what are exactly those alphas? So we can very well understand that this set of 5 vectors are a dependent set, but how they are related, what are those alphas? So that is the question. So this is the question about the linear dependence of vectors. So the same question posed in a different way, to check whether the set is independent, also gives the check about the linear dependence among the vectors. So you will find out these alphas. So if you come to find out these alphas to be all 0 in a certain example, in a certain numerical example, then you can say that these vectors are, independent. But if you see that these alphas are non-zero, then it is ascertained for sure that they are dependent. And you can also find out, you can also see the relationship, the linear relationship between the vectors. Okay, so sorry, something happened here, got smaller. Okay, so we will start with the numerical exercise. So what we will do, we will form a sort of a table like this. So we are stacking up the vectors one after another. This is the first thing that you should do. You are stacking up the vectors one by one. In addition to it, we have to also form a identity matrix below this row. So here we are forming an identity matrix, the size of which is equal to the number of vectors we are testing. So it is a 5 cross 5 identity matrix. Sorry. Now just read this in this manner. So why this identity matrix has been placed here? How do how does it relate to these vectors? So we will do one operation and then we will discuss how it relates. So while you learnt about row echelon form, you learnt about choosing a pivot element, and we can choose a pivot element as any one of these elements at the start. So we choose, suppose this as the pivot element number 1. Pivot element number 1. You mark this because you cannot, in the next step you will not be able to choose a pivot element from this row or this column. You have to change your pivot element to another row and another column. Okay, so that's why marking the pivot element is important, so that you don't make a mistake later on. So in the what is the idea of choosing the pivot element? What we want to do, as in the row echelon form, we wanted to make all the other rows. So in the same column we wanted to make the other row elements 0. In the same column we wanted to make the other row elements 0. Here in the same row we want to make the other column elements 0. So what we want to do, we want to make this this first element of v2 0, the first element of v3 0, first element of all the vectors that are lined up. We want to make the first element of those vectors 0, because we have chosen the first element of v1 as the pivot element. To do that, we would need to scale v1 by some scalar and add it to the vectors. That is what we need to do. So this is the operation. As in the row operation, same way in the column operation. Now in the first, for v2, do we need any scalar? No, because it is already 0. This element is already 0, so we don't need to do anything. So we have to keep it as it is. So v1 of course remains as it is. We don't change v1, it remains as it is. And similarly, the column below v1 also remains the same. Now for v2, it also remains as it is, because we don't add v1 to it, we don't do anything, it is already 0. This column also remains as it is, because nothing happened to the second entire column, nothing happened. For v3, we are scaling it up with -2, scaling v1 with -2 and adding to v3. So v3 basically becomes v3 minus 2 v1, correct? Then you get 0 here, this is 1 till 3 minus 2 is 1. Same thing you must do in the column below. So what is that same thing? You are taking the first vector, scaling it with -2, adding it to this vector. Same thing, you should take the first vector here, scale it with -2 and add it to this particular vector, So you would get -2, 0, 1, 0, 0. Here nothing to be done, because first element is already 0. Here -4 v5 minus 4 v1, that is what you are doing in order to make this 0. This remains 3, this becomes 2, and -4, 0, 0, 0, 1. Now it will be easier for me to make you understand the significance of this lower matrix. So why did we take this identity matrix and what it is signifying here? You note that whatever operation I have done in the upper columns, these vectors, that is getting reflected in the lower column. How? You see, what is this? This operation that I have done, v3 minus 2v2, 2v1. v3, the third element, minus 2v1. The first element gets multiplied with the v1 vector. The second element gets multiplied with the v2 vector. Third element gets multiplied with the v3 vector. Fourth element with the v4 vector. Fifth element with the v5 vector. That's why there are five elements in this column, though there are only 3 elements in each of these vectors, because each of these elements in the lower matrix, in the lower columns, is a scaling of the corresponding vector from here, the initial vectors. So that is a scaling of these vectors, and you can simply read this, whatever I have written here, v3 minus 2 v1, this you can read from here, v3 minus 2 v1. Similarly here, v5 minus 4 v1. What about this? Only v4, if only v4. Here only v2, here only v1. So v1 remains same, so only v1. So at the very start also you read this column is what? Only v1, no other contribution of any other vectors. This column is what? This column, entire column, only v2, no other contribution. So similarly, this is v3, this is v4, this is v5. So this identity matrix basically identifies the vectors on top of these columns. So that is the speciality of this identity matrix. That is why we put this identity matrix, and we do the same operation as we do in the top vectors, we do in the bottom vectors also, and they represent this operation. What operation we have done? If someone asks you what operation you have done, suppose I have not written this, I have only given you this this table sort of a thing. Suppose someone asks you what operation has he done here in this second step, what operation has he done, then you will be able to see very clearly that in this particular, here no operation has been done, here no operation has been done, here this was v3 but a minus 2 v1 has been done, so this operation is v3 minus 2 v1. Here no operation is done because v4 remains v4, here a minus 4 v1 has been. So that is the significance of the lower identity matrix and changing it. As we change the top vectors, we also change the bottom vectors. So this is the reason of keeping this. And you so with this thought in our mind, we would proceed in the next step. So in the next step, what we need to do, we need to choose another pivot element, and we cannot choose a pivot element from the first row and the first column now, because the first pivot element was belonging to the first row and first column. So we choose the pivot element as this, suppose this one, this is the pivot element number 2. So you should always mark your pivot element so that you don't make a mistake of choosing the successive pivot element in the same row and the same column. Now what is the intention of the choosing the pivot element? Same, that we want to make all the elements in the same row 0. That is what we want to make. Then what happens here? No change, because this element is already 0, so no change here also. Then here also we don't change because we have chosen the pivot element from here, no change. Here we need to subtract, so this is basically a scaling of this vector minus v2. So what you are getting basically v3 minus 2 v1 minus v2. So remember this, we are not writing this operation at the top anymore, because they would be reflected in the bottom vector. That's why we are not writing it that at the top. So minus, so this is 0, this is 0, then minus 2, minus 1, 1, 0, 0, then this one again minus 0, 0, minus 1, then 0, minus 1, 0, minus 0, 1, 0. For this 0, minus 3 we have to do, right? So this is becoming 0, minus 3 plus 2 is minus 1, and this one is minus 4 will remain, because we have to do like minus 3 of this vector to this vector, added to this vector, minus 4 minus 3, 0, 0, 1. Be careful while doing this, don't make any mistake, always double check at the very step, double check here only. So once you do, double check again. Since I have it in my notes, so I am checking from my notes, this is correct. So next, what is the pivot element you should take? You should take a pivot element not in the first column first row, not in the second column second row. So the third row is valid, and the third column, fourth column, fifth column are valid. So in the third row, third column, nothing to choose, it is already 0 all. Fourth column, this is there, fifth column, this is there. So any one of these you can choose. Let me choose this, and I want to make all these zeros. So to make all these 0, I have to add these to this first vector, and I will get 1, 0, 0. I am adding this vector to this vector, 1, minus 1, 0, 1, 0. Again I am doing a simple addition, 1, 0, 0, 0, because this is getting added to this. So minus 1 and plus 1 is 0, 0, 1, 0. Then nothing I am doing here, all are already 0, 1, 0, 0. This remains as it is because the pivot element is from here. Here I subtract, then this becomes 0. So I subtract 0 from minus 4, nothing happens. Minus 1 from minus 3. So I subtract minus 1 from minus 3, this becomes minus 2. Then this is minus 1. This is 0. This is 1. This is what I get. Now, is there any option to choose further pivot elements? No. So when we stop having pivot elements with us, we stop this operation. So the operation stops when we don't have any further pivot elements to choose. Now we landed with this chart. And what does this chart say? What does this chart say? This chart says that V1 minus V2 plus V3 is 1, 0, 0. This chart says that V4 is 0, 1, 0. Let us check. V4 we already had. V4 is 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. True, right? So this operation, you see how beautifully it has made V4 come here in the second row. What does it say? It says that minus 2 V1 minus V2 plus V3 is 0, 0, 0. It says that minus V2 plus V4 is 0, 0, minus 1. It says minus 4 V1 minus 2 V2 minus V3 plus V5 is 0, 0, 0. So all this information is stored here. Among this, what information do we need? What information do we need? Do we need the information that v1 minus v2 plus v4 is 100? No, we don't need that information. At least that was not the intention of doing this operation. The intention of doing this operation was to find out the alphas, the scalars with which we can scale the vectors v1 to v5 so that the resultant will be 0. We wanted to solve this equation and obtain these alphas. So our final result must be 0. So what we are looking here at the top vector set, the 0 vector. The 0 vectors are what we are looking at. Got it? So since we are trying to solve the equation summation alpha I vi equals to 0, so we are looking at those columns only where the top vector is 0, because this is the result of the addition of the vectors as given by these elements. These elements are simply giving the addition of the vectors minus 2 v1 minus v2 plus v3. So now you can see from here that this is the result that you get, minus 2 v1 minus v2 plus v3 equals to 0. That means v3 is equals to 2 v1 plus v2. So if these 5 vectors, if in these 5 so these are the 5 vectors that had been given to you, this 5 that you started with. Of course 3 of them would be independent and 2 of them would be dependent on the other 3. So here you found the first dependence relationship. Here you found the first dependence relationship as v3 equals to 2 v1 plus v2. So v3, this vector is equals to 2 v1 plus v2. Now you can check 2 v1 plus v2, you can check, it will give you v3, right? Perhaps you had already noticed, but after doing this operation you can see very clearly. If it was a complicated scalar 2 and 1, you can very easily notice, but it might not be so for all operations. But after finding the scalars, you can check back, you can look back and do a cross check. So do a cross check always whether really 2 v1 plus v2 is v3. You can do the cross check. What is the other relationship? The other relationship is this, minus 4 v1 minus 2 v2 minus v3 plus v4 v5 is 0. So v5 is the other dependent vector, 4 v1 plus, and it is related to the other vectors in this manner. This is the other dependence relation. Which are the vectors which are dependent to the other vectors? Vector number 3 and vector number 5. You notice that this is the third column, this is the fifth column, which has become 0. So the columns which become 0 are the vector numbers which are dependent on the other vector. This also you can infer from this chart, from this table that you have made. So if you are given the table and just by looking at the table you are asked to uh, give you the vectors which are dependent on the other vector. So they will be v3 and v4. Also you notice that this v3 has not changed. So of course this v3 can be related to the others, v5 can be related to the others very easily. Very easily. You can argue with me that v1 can also, like v2 can also be expressed in terms of v1 and v3. v2 can also be expressed in terms of v1 and v3. Here also v2 can be expressed in terms of v1 and v3. So that is true, that is also true, but directly what you are getting, that is what I am trying to show you. Directly you are getting this, that the v3 and v5 are can be expressed in terms of the other vector very directly. So you don't need to do any interchange and scaling operations on this particular equation. So this is the column operation. So with the help of column operation, what information can we get? We can get the information how the vectors are related to each other. How the vectors are related to each other. So this information we can get from the column vectors. So now suppose that there are vectors which are independent of each other. So we have an independent set of vectors. Then what do you expect? We expect that this final column or not final, these zero columns that have been produced by this operation will also have zero elements here. That is what we expect. Then we can say that the this operation or this equation will will give result only for alphas being 0. So these are the alphas, right? So these are the alphas. So only for alpha equals to 0 we would have solution of this equation. So let us try to check or verify this by doing column operation on another set of vectors. Let us take the vectors v1. So v1 equals to 1, 2, 3. So I'm randomly choosing this because I don't have such things in my note. 0, 1, 1. 0, 0, 2. So I believe that they will be independent. Let me just quick check. I guess they would be independent. Let us check while doing the column of. So we first place the vectors side by side. Also we place a identity matrix of the same order as the number of vectors we have with us, and then we continue this operation of choosing a pivot element and trying to make others. So as you can see this is already 0, so I can choose this. Maybe let me choose this as the first pivot element, and I want to make this 0, so -2 would be the thing, and here 1 minus 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0. So I cannot choose any pivot element from here and here, so I have this one as a nice pivot element. So I want to choose all this. I want to make all this last row as 0, last row elements. This remains same. 2, then 0, 1, 0. What I have done, sorry, there would be a minus 1. I have subtracted the first column from the second column. Minus 1 would come. Minus 1 plus 1 is 3, 0. Then this one is 0. This one also be a minus 1. Minus 2. Minus 2. Then minus 2. Then 0. Then 0. So what is happening here? You are getting minus 2. This would be 4. This would be 1. You are coming here. So you have chosen from here, you have chosen from here, you have chosen. The only other option is this one. Only other option is this one. But as you can see that even if you choose this and make this 0, then nothing actually, so you don't have a 0 column. You will not be able to get a 0 column. So this is also actually a check that if you cannot get a 0 column, that means you don't have uh, any scalars. So there are finite scalars here at the bottom, right? So a finite combination of scalars is unable to give you the 0 column. If you are able to get the 0 column, then by doing this column operations, you would be able to make one column 0 for sure. But if you are unable to make one column in one of the top columns as 0 by doing this operation, this means that the vectors you have begun with are independent of each other. So this is a check. So there are two things. So probably the first thing that I said does not happen in general, which is you get a 0 column and also you see that the lower columns are also 0. The other check is this: you never get a 0 column at the top set of vectors, even if you exhaust all the possible pivot elements. So this is the last pivot element we could possibly choose, and by choosing this we would not be able to make an entire column 0. So we will not be able to do that. So you see that we would get a sort of an anti-diagonal matrix at the top if you take this minus 2 and try to make these two things 0. Okay, so that is another check. So you can stop the operation here and write down that we cannot make any column 0, or you can do the next step of operation also, and then you can say that we have not been able to make any of the columns 0, and that means that the vectors that we started with are independent of each other. That is the check. If some column becomes 0 with non-zero elements in the bottom, that means that we have dependency relationship between the chosen vectors. If we don't have that thing coming up, that means we are having independence relationship between the vectors. So the thing is that if we have a 0 column, and there are alphas in the bottom row, then you will have it as a summation of alpha I vi for some alpha I not equals to 0. that case would be revealed. Otherwise, these VIs are independent of each other. Otherwise means that this particular condition is not revealed by this column operation. Then you would see, yeah, and then you can say that the VIs are independent. That would happen when you will not be able to generate a zero vector in the top set of vectors by doing a column operation, or even if you generate a zero, you will see that the lower vector is also zero. Okay. So you can choose other vectors and do this column operation and see what you get. You can see that. So whether you get a set of independent vectors or a set of dependent vectors. So maybe you can check for I can easily make this set of vectors dependent. Just let me look at it. And so if I choose this as, if I change this vector and make this 1 and then 3, 4, you can very easily see that V3 is V1 plus V2 simply. But you can do the column operation and see whether this relationship comes out or not from this operation. So you can take any vector, any number of vectors uh, of any order. Basically, the order doesn't matter in this algorithm, so that is the beauty of it. So you can take a 4-dimensional or a 5-dimensional vector, 5-dimensional vectors, and try to do this for your own practice and see how it comes out. So this is about the column operation, and through the column operation the checking of the vectors whether they are dependent or independent. That what we can do now. So with that knowledge with us, we can now try to look into these concepts. What are rank of a matrix? What are range and null spaces of a matrix? So from vectors we would look at matrices now. But what are matrices? As I told in the last lecture, you can view the matrices as uh, columns of vectors in some vector space. So if you have a matrix A, suppose you have a matrix, suppose this matrix only, this one. So this one is basically a matrix if you look at it in that manner. So you can say that this is a matrix also. This is a stack of these vectors. So when you look at a matrix, now you can look at it as a stack of vectors coming from a particular vector space. So this is these vectors are coming from the 3-dimensional vector space. The 3-dimensional space. This is coming from the 3-dimensional space. This is also coming from 3-dimensional space. This is also coming from 3-dimensional space. Now, if these columns are all independent of each other, then we say that the rank of the matrix is also 3, or the rank of the matrix is full. Full is the term that we use. We denote rank as rank A, or sometimes as RA, sometimes also as row A. So there are various symbols. You just need to know what it means. It means the number of independent column vectors in the matrix. That is what it means. Number of independent column vectors in the matrix. So how you should check the rank? You should take these columns. If I give you a matrix now and ask you to find out its rank, you should take these columns and do this operation that we did. Do this column operation and figure out whether there figure out how many independent vectors are there. How many independent vectors are there? So if you get a 0 column at the top, that means that vector is not independent. So as many non-zero columns in the top, in this top set of vectors you get at the final end of this algorithm. So at the end of the algorithm, as many non-zero columns you get at the top, those many independent vectors are there in this set, in the set of vectors you begin with. So when you replace these vectors with the columns of the matrix, when you replace these vectors with the columns of the matrix, then what you are getting? You are getting the number of independent columns in the matrix. Number of independent columns in the matrix, which is the rank of the matrix. You see, we can with the knowledge of how to do a simple operation, which is a column operation, which is a straightforward numerical operation. There is nothing to it basically. We simply do a straightforward numerical operation, but it reveals some information about not just vectors, but also we can reveal information about the matrix with the help of this column operation. Though matrices and vectors are completely different objects in nature, but matrices are basically operators on vectors. They take a vector from one position to another. That is the purpose of the matrix. However, we can look at the matrix in a different way, as stack of vectors coming from the same vector field or from some vector field. In this case, it is a three-dimensional vector field. And then by the knowledge of checking independence of vectors coming from a certain vector field, of a certain vector space, you can now apply that same operation to check whether these columns are independent or not. And in this particular case, you have already seen, we have already checked it. So what is the number of independent columns? 3. That is the rank of the matrix. If your matrix was this one, if your matrix was this one, then your rank would be 3. There are 3 independent columns. Your rank would be 3. That is the story of rank. So if you check, if you have a matrix like this, so now this vector is actually dependent, no? So if you have a new matrix A like this, 1 2 3 0 1 1 1 3 4, then the rank would be 2, because one of these vectors is dependent on the other 2 vectors. So if you do the column operation here, you will see at the end only one matrix, only one vector at the top is becoming 0. So maybe let us do this column operation once for sanity check. So let us take these vectors 1 2 3, 1 2 3 0 1 1 0, not 0, this would be 1, making it very simple, 1 3 4. We just want to do the column operation and see what happens. Is everything, are we getting the correct answer? We take, suppose I take this as the, not this one, maybe this one is better, no? So this one as the first pivot element, 1 0 1 1 minus 2 0 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 0 minus 3 1. Next pivot element we choose is this one. This we cannot choose, this we cannot choose, so let us choose this one. Choose this, then 1 0 0 and 1 1 minus 1. I hope I am doing correctly. This cross check, 0 1 0, and I am getting here minus 2 minus 1 remains same, but this I won't be able to get a row column. So did we make any mistake here? Let's check. Minus this becomes 1, right? 3. Okay, so I have done this mistake here. I've written this as 0, but it would be 1. It would be 1 0 1. I guess this is correct. Then this is 1, still 1. So what about all these? I've taken this one. So this would become 0 now, right? So that is why this would become 0. Now you see, that v1 plus v2 minus v3 is 0. I hope you noticed that how you should do the column operation very carefully. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or the other class, that I tend to do mistakes while on board, but that also signifies the fact, or lets me emphasize the fact that you should do your operations very carefully, because these are operations that you should do cautiously, so that you don't do the mistake like I am doing on board. Because I don't have to give the exams, but you have to give the exams. So in the exams you should not do this mistake, which are very easy to do actually. So you should be very careful. So it also, so this gives me another opportunity to reiterate this fact. So now you see that v1 plus v2 plus v3 is 0. Again I have done a mistake. This is not plus, this is minus. How do I get it? from here v1 plus v2 minus v3 is 0. So v3 is v1 plus v2. That is how we had constructed v3 basically at the very beginning. We get the same relationship. So what would be the rank? The rank would be the number of non-zero rows that remains with us after the end of the column operation. So the column operation has ended because see we could actually take another so there was a so this pivot element we have taken, so our only remaining option was this pivot element, this position as pivot element, but choosing this as pivot element would not change anything because this is the entire zero column. Okay, so so our operation has ended actually. So when our operation has ended, we notice how many non-zero columns we have. So that is the number of independent vectors, and that gives the rank of the matrix. Another way to check rank of the matrix is to actually formulate the determinant of the matrix. So another way to check rank of the matrix is to see whether the determinant of the matrix, which is also sometimes denoted as this, is 0 or not. So if this is 0, if this is not 0, implies rank equals to n. N is the order of the matrix. If it is 0, it implies, so if it is 0, this implies rank of the matrix is less than n, but it does not say what is the rank. Okay, to know what is the rank, you have to do the column operation and see how many independent columns are there. That is the rank. That is the rank of the matrix. Now the related concepts with rank of the matrix are the range space and the null space of a matrix. So with that I will end this lecture, but since all these concepts are related, so I take this in the same lecture. Range of A, also denoted like this, range of A. So this is a space basically. Range of A is a space. So what is a space? So you see, rank of matrix is a scalar number, is a real numerical, actually integer. Rank of a matrix is always an integer. It comes from the integer space. Range of a matrix is a vector space. Range of a matrix is a vector space. You know that we have the concept of dimension of a space. What is the concept of dimension of the space? The number of basis vectors required to create any vector in that space. The number of basis vectors required to create dimension of a space. Suppose a space is denoted by normally denoted by capital alphabets. Say we have a space capital X. Dimension of X will be equals to the number of basis vectors required to span, this is a term we use, to span this vector space X, which is same as the number of basis vectors required to create or construct any vector in X. That means spanning of X. Spanning of X means you can create any vector in X with the help of these basis vectors. What is the number of such basis vectors? You can say least, but it does not really, we does not really need the least word, because if we have another vector, it becomes a dependent vector on this basis vector, so it does not become a basis vector anymore. Sometimes you may find this word used, but normally we don't use. So this is the number of basis vectors. Number of basis vectors required to span X is the dimension of X. For the spaces that we have encountered so far, like these are the spaces, the Cartesian coordinate space, the Euclidean space. So in these spaces, if we have a two-dimensional space, then the number of basis vectors is 2. If we have a three-dimensional space, so R3 number of basis vectors is 3. So it is same. So the number of basis vectors is already in the name of that space. So the third order, three-dimensional space, four-dimensional space. So we already talk like that. Okay. But in general, actually, in the mathematics of linear algebra, in the general terminology of vector spaces, uh, it is not so apparent all the time. So that's why dimension is defined as the number of basis vectors, and the number of basis vectors is not coming from the dimension of the space. It is the other way around. Anyway, so that is the thing about dimension. Now, what is the range space of A? To obtain the range space of A, so we are talking about defining a space, because we have to identify a space as a range space of A. So we have to know how to identify a space, identify a vector space, how to define a vector space. We define a vector space by the basis vectors, which by the basis vectors of that space. So we identify the basis vectors basically. So we identify the basis vectors and then say that X, this space X, is a span of the basis vectors. Suppose there are p number of basis vectors we find out. So this is the p dimensional space. Then we write X as equals to, within the second bracket, x1 to xp. x1 to xp, all the vectors, all the basis vectors that we have found out. So this is a set of the basis vectors. So you can read it like this, that the space is basically a span of these basis vectors. Sometimes we use the word span also before writing this, sometimes we don't, but we mean the same thing. Span of these vectors, or simply writing this also means that it is the span of these vectors. That is the vector space. So how do we find range of A? To find range of A, we have to find out the span of this span of the vectors which are forming the range, forming the range space of A. They are forming the range space of A. So what is the range space? Geometrically, we should try to understand what is the range space. First, we would see the algebraic form. Ax equals to y. So we write this equation all the time, Ax equals to y. So A can be any matrix, it need not be a n cross n matrix, it can be any other matrix. X is, if this is m cross n, X is n cross 1. What is this? M cross 1. So from a Rn space, you are going to a Rm. So suppose the Rn space is like this. So it is n dimensional space. I have tried to draw it in a two-dimensional plane. Suppose this is the Rn plane with this as a 0. And here I have another space which is the Rm space. So if m is less than n, then this Rm space is contained within Rn. Okay, and if m is more than n, then this Rn space is contained within Rm. For the purpose of showing, I am showing this separately because I don't know which one is greater or which one is lower. What is happening when we do the operation Ax? We are taking a vector from this, so this is a 0 vector, 0 in the n space, this is a 0 in the m space, and since both are Euclidean spaces of different dimensions, this 0 is basically the same. This 0 point is basically uh, not the same. This 0 point can be different also. This 0 point can be different also. So here are the two spaces. This 0 point basically depends on how you choose your vectors, how you choose your basis vectors, all these things. So now what is this doing? This is taking any vector from this vector space and putting it in these vectors. That is what it is doing. So while doing this, the question arises whether it is able to put of course it is able to put all the vectors in the m dimensional space, but am I able to span the entire m dimensional space? That is the question. So I have to try it out with all the vectors from the n dimensional space. So all the vectors I have to try out and see where it lands in the m dimensional space. But now if I see that where it lands in the m dimensional space is a space which is having a dimension less than m, is a space which is having a dimension less than m. How it can happen? It can happen if suppose for all these vectors we notice that maybe one of these elements will always become 0. This A is such a matrix that while doing this transformation it makes all the first elements 0 all the time. Then of course it is a vector in the Rm space, but it is also a vector in a lower order space, Rm minus 1. Then we say that the range space of A is this Rm minus 1, not Rm anymore. Then we say the range of A is Rm minus 1. So wherever it puts the vectors from this n dimensional space, in whatever space it puts the vector, the dimension of that space is the dimension of the range space, and that space where it puts the vectors is called the range space of A. When can this particular situation happen? A very nice example is this, very trivial example, when you have all the first elements as 0. This can be anything. Suppose all the first elements are 0, then always your x1 coordinate, the first coordinate, will always be 0, no matter what vector you choose from here. It will not matter. It will not matter on these elements because this row is already 0. So your first entry here will always be 0. Others I don't know, but this I am certain about. So that means the range space has already lost a dimension while the transformation happened. The range space lost a dimension from here. So suppose this is a 4 cross 4, so it lost a dimension from 4. So that is the range space. But normally finding out the range space is difficult in this manner. So in this diagrammatic manner, it is difficult to find out the range space. What do we actually find out? We find out the rank of the matrix. So instead of finding out the range, we find out the rank. And from this trivial example, you can understand what does this mean. This one row being 0, what does this mean? So do we always need a row to be 0 in order to have a lower dimension range space? No, because a row here being 0 can also happen by doing a row operation on a matrix. So if you have a matrix which have all non-zero elements, so all these elements are non-zero, but after doing row operations you find that one of the row has become 0, then these two matrices are equivalent, and so the range space of these two matrices is also the same. So this situation also happens for this matrix. So what would be same in these two matrices? The rank would be same in these two matrices, or the number of independent columns would be same in these two matrices. Number of independent columns or the number of independent rows would be same in these two matrices. And that is how we can actually figure out the dimension of the range space also. So all this idea of range space, what we learned about, we only need to figure out the number of independent columns in the matrix A, and that we can do by the column operation. So that is all, same as the rank of the matrix. So this is how the beauty of the column operation, where the beauty of the column operation stands. So you can simply figure out the range space. You can simply figure out the range space, the dimension of the range space by looking at the by seeing the rank, or that means by looking at the number of independent columns the matrix, number of independent columns in the matrix. Also, what is the range space? Range space we can express in terms of span of some vectors, right? So the range space basically becomes the span of the independent columns of matrix A. So you would be able to figure out which are the independent columns by doing the column operation. You would be able to figure out the independent columns that would form the range space, that would form the range space of the that would form the basis of the range space of the matrix A. The complementary concept of range space is the null space. Null space of the matrix A is also written as N of A, also known as the kernel of A. Kernel. How is it defined? It is defined as the span of those vectors X which give you this equation, ax equals to 0, not ax equals to y, ax equals to 0. So again we have the same picture, this same picture we have. Let me see if I can copy this. Yeah. So if I have A as m cross n, this is n cross 1, this is m cross 1, the 0 of m cross 1 dimensional space. So the 0 of m cross 1 dimensional space. So I am trying to find out all those vectors x which are going to this 0 vector. This is what I am trying to do. Trying to find out all those vectors x which are going to this 0, the 1.0. So the set of all those vectors is going to form my null space. Of course, you can understand very well that this set of vectors will in general not be covering this Rn space totally. And the most trivial solution is this 0 vector. So this 0 vector will be contained in the set, in the kernel. This 0 vector has to be in the kernel. So the question is whether the 0 vector is the only vector within the kernel of A. Whether 0n is the only vector in the null space of A. That means whether Na is only 0n or not, or whether it is a span of some other vectors. That is the question. So here actually what you need to see, and you look here, it is very readily understood now. What we are doing here is trying to find out, so if your A vector has if your A matrix has some column vectors, of course it has columns. So what we are trying to find with this equation is the column, suppose v1, the first column, x1 is multiplying that column. So this understanding we had gathered from the last lecture. X2 is multiplying the column v2. Similarly, xn is multiplying the column vn. That is giving me 0. So we are trying to find out this x1, x2, xn, right? x1, x2, xn we are trying to find out. So if these are found out to be all zeros, if these are found out to be all zeros, that means my x, which is x1, x2 up to xn, is equal to the 0 vector only, is equal to the 0 vector only. So my null space is this, that case. However, if we found any, so if during the column operation of with the column with the vector with the column vectors v1 to vn, we are doing the column operation, at the end of the column operation we find that there are some non-zero x1 to xn that gives us a 0 column at the top vectors. One of the columns has become 0. That means that there are some x non-zero not equals to 0, which is also able to give this equation. Those x, it may be one, it may be only, it might so happen that after doing the column operation you have only one of the top columns 0, then only one particular vector you will get which will satisfy this equation. So your null space will be a span of only one vector. However, it might so happen that after the end of the column operation you get two number of 0 vectors in the in the set of top vectors. That means there are two such vectors x, which will satisfy this equation. That also means any linear combination of those two vectors will also satisfy this equation. Then your span becomes, then your null space becomes a span of those two vectors x1 and x2. So as many 0 columns you get at the top, from looking at the corresponding bottom vectors in the column operation chart. So we have an example, I guess, here. So what was the first example? Here you see, suppose these were the this is the matrix whose null space we want to find out. We already have found out that these are the relationships by which the vectors, the column vectors, get multiplied by these scalars to yield these 0 vectors at the top. That means you are having v1, v2, v3, v4, v5 multiplied by -2, -1, 1, 0, 0 yielding 0, and this v1, v2, v3, v5 is nothing but a, and this is nothing but one vector x1 which is satisfying this equation x1 equals to 0. So you get x1 as a basis of the null space of A equals to span of this vector comma another x2 vector. What is x2? You see another column has become 0. So this is the x2 vector. Directly you get from looking at this vector at the bottom. So what is x2 vector? So this is x1. What is x2? x2 is -4, -2, -1, 0, 1. And of course, any linear combination of these two vectors multiplied with A will also give 0. You can check this as an example. Theoretically, I hope you can understand, many of you can understand, but if there is a doubt, you try to take x1 plus x2, you see what is x1 plus x2, and then you solve this v1, v2, v3, v5, all you know. You put those v1 to v5 with x1 plus x2, you add, it will give you 0. It is very evident But if you are unsure, you can do this operation and check for yourself. Any linear combination will give that. That is the beauty of linear combination basically. That is the way linear combinations are defined. So that is how you will get the null space. So you see that the null space is basically a complementary concept of the range space. Null space is a complementary concept of the range space. However, there is a very significant difference which I would like to point out by looking at these two figures. Just zoom in a bit so that I have these two figures at the same page. The concept is like this, that the range space is a subset in this space where we go. Range space is a subset of this space where A takes us. Okay. Where we are landing. So the range space is a subset of this space. It is either the total Rm space or a subset of that space. Whereas the null space is a subspace in this space from where we are going to another space. So it is a space spanned by x vectors. This is the subtle difference. So one space is here on the right hand side, another space in the left hand side. So one space is in the target space. So the range space is in the target space. It is a subspace of the target space. Sometimes the entire target space Rn, but in general as a subspace. The null space is from the is from the origin space. You can say it like that. So from the space where we take the vectors and make them 0. So it is a subspace of that vector space. So with that understanding, I will conclude the lecture, and the important thing that you should note is that the same column operation is able to give us so much of information about so many things, though they are quite varied in nature. So you need to learn how to work with column operations and also make inferences out of the column operations. Inferences in terms of rank, range space, null space, etc. So it became a very long lecture. I didn't anticipate it to carry on for so long, but thanks for holding on to your attention, and we will meet in the next lecture. Thank you.